and to anyone watching on the recording. So this is being recorded today, which is why videos and microphones are off. And I do believe you'll be able to add subtitles, I think, maybe if you're watching the recording back. We would love some questions in the chat for Danielle, our very special author today, and she will be answering those questions at the end of the call. So let me start today with a bit of a story about stories, because we're here to talk about stories today. So my name is Kat, and I want to start with a story about why I'm hosting this project, why it matters to me. Because did you know that less than 4%, so only 4 in 100 books, children's books, have a main character who is disabled? So that's not many at all, and it means lots of children don't get to see characters like them in books. And if we can't see ourselves in stories, it can be hard to believe what we're capable of. So this amazing project today is all about changing that, and we've got several calls, as you know, over these months together. So it's about making sure every child, no matter their circumstances, can find characters in stories and books that are just like them. And these stories help children feel included, build confidence, and show them that they can do amazing things. And also help any children without disabilities to understand and include others, because being kind and accepting and understanding is really important. So another quick story is about children today who've brought all this together. So this is the story of Hugh. And about 30 years ago, he was a young dad and he lived by the seaside. And this man, Hugh, had 2 children. He had a girl who was 9 and a boy who was 4. They both had bright blue eyes and dark brown hair, and Hugh loved taking them on bike rides and days out by the beach. But one day, Hugh realised that some children, if they did have disabilities, might find it much harder to enjoy things like bike rides or family outings, and he wanted to help. So he started a charity called Children Today, and the charity raises money even 30 years later to help disabled children get special equipment like wheelchairs, like adapted trikes and other tools and things to allow them to take part in fun activities with their families and friends, which is amazing. And so 30 years later, Hugh is still part of this charity. He now enjoys bike rides with his grandson, Oliver, and the charity is run by an amazing team of parents who are trying to make sure every child has the chance to have fun, feel included, and take part. So a final little story about why am I here? Well, as I've said, I'm Kat Williams, and I'm a therapist. I work with people of all ages, helping them to feel more confident and included. But when I was about 10 years old, I made a very silly decision. One day, some children in my village asked me to play, and I wanted to fit in and feel like I belonged. So when they said, "Get on the bike with us," I didn't even stop to think. And I climbed onto the front of a bike, even though there were 2 children already on it. And I was holding on to the handlebars behind me with my feet on the parts of the hub of the wheel. And we started to go downhill faster and faster until, bang, we crashed into a brick wall. My face hit first because I was holding onto at the front of the bike. I lost 2 front teeth, I needed stitches in my lip, and I was very lucky that I wasn't more seriously hurt. And looking back, I know I did that because I didn't want to feel left out. I felt different because I didn't really feel I belonged with that group of children. So what I've learned since then is we can all feel different in some way. Maybe it's the way we look, the way we move, and in fact, that's what makes us special. So what this project is about is using stories to inspire and to let us know that we can all feel different in different ways, and that actually makes us all the same. So who's ready to dive into some brilliant stories with Danielle? Because as well, the stories that we listen to, and most importantly, the stories that we tell ourselves within our own mind, is incredibly powerful. So I can't wait. I'm introducing Danielle Brown, our amazing author today, and she's going to tell you a little bit about her first of all. welcome, Danielle. It's so great that you're here.
Oh, thank you. It is amazing to be here. I think I'm very, very lucky because I get to talk about my two favourite things, which is sport and disability inclusion. That they're very, very important to me, and I'll explain why. So I grew up and I loved sport. I loved taking part in sport. I did lots of different activities, which is great fun. But I grew up not believing that I could one day have a career in sport. And that was because I didn't see people like me as having a career as an athlete. I didn't see other women out there succeeding, thriving, or failing. We didn't see them on TV, we didn't read about them in books, and we didn't talk about them in the playground. They just weren't there. And because I didn't see these amazing role models, I didn't have access to them, I just didn't even think that sport could be a career for me. Now, I became an athlete, and I was so lucky to fall into that by accident. I started archery on my 15th birthday. So
Wow.
anyone who doesn't know what archery is, yeah, bows and arrows, which is great fun. And it was an amazing, amazing career. And I started archery because I became disabled as a teenager. So I've got a disability called complex regional pain syndrome. It's a bit of a mouthful. It gets called CRPS for short. And yeah, it causes a lot of pain in both my feet. It means I can't run, I can't walk very far. And that meant that doing a lot of the sports I loved doing, I just couldn't do anymore. So archery was something, didn't involve running around, didn't involve lots of walking. But when I became disabled, again, those role models weren't there. So if I thought I found it difficult looking for female athletes, trying to find disabled role models was even more difficult. I could name one disabled person, and that was Stephen Hawking. So super famous scientist, but that was it. So that's why inclusion and making sure that disability is represented through books is just really, really important to me, because if you don't see them, if you don't read about them, it's really, really difficult to believe that you can one day go on and achieve amazing things.
Yes, so true. Amazing. And you're going to share some chapters with us today.
Yes,
Is that
yes. So I've got my book Run Like a Girl. So and the inspiration behind this, like I said, that I didn't hear about female athletes growing up. I became an athlete myself. So as I said, my sport was archery. I went to the Paralympic Games. So I went to Beijing 2008, London 2012. I won a gold medal at both. And in 2010, I went to the Commonwealth Games and I became the first disabled athlete to represent England as an able-bodied athlete there. So I went from having zero role models to getting to compete, travel around the world, win loads of medals, which was just amazing fun. And I wanted to make sure that young people, if they were growing up, that they had access to role models, so they could find people, really inspiring people. So that's where the inspiration for the book came from. And I think role models are really, really important because they teach us so many different things. They teach us how to succeed. They teach us when we fail, actually, how can we pick ourselves up? How can we carry on? And I chose 50 different athletes from all around the world. And the reason I chose them is because each story focuses on a different thing. And I know that after I've done my chapter, after I've done my reading, you're going to ask me all the questions. But I've got a question for you. What is your favorite, or who is your favorite athlete? What's your favorite sport? Who is your favorite athlete? So if you want to throw that into the chat,
Ooh,
So it'll be really, really interesting to see if you've already got a role model.
let's see if some answers come into the chat. Hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I mean, whilst you're waiting, Kat, who's your favourite athlete?
Well, actually, as I was looking at your book over the last few days, the one that's really stand out to me is Ellen MacArthur, because my goodness me, I heard her speak in Edinburgh several years ago. And I do have, I try not to say it's a fear of water because she's a sailor, everyone. She's sailed around the world and she holds a record for that of doing it the fastest. Am I right, Danielle? And to me, I have a very high respect for the water. It's very, very, I think of all the sports that I would definitely not want to do, it would be sailing on the water, especially around the world. So Ellen MacArthur, for me, I just think I could not not do 1 mile of that, let alone around the world. So yes, for me, it's Ellen MacArthur.
Oh, super. And I love her story because I mean, she had no money. She was living on a small boat and she was going around painting other people's boats just to get enough money to feed herself. And she was every single day writing letters to see if she could get sponsors to go on her trip around the world. And eventually she managed it, which is just amazing. But the reason why I love stories like this is it just shows you that when things get really tough, when you think something's impossible, people out there have come up with really creative solutions and managed to achieve amazing things.
It really is amazing. We've got some comments in. Can you see them?
Oh, yes, yeah, it's amazing. So we've got Messi swimming, Usain Bolt, Ellie Simmons, and Zoe Budd, which is so cool.
Fantastic.
Some really, really good ones. So I'm going to read 3 chapters, and the first one I've chosen today is I think quite an interesting story. So this is Lizzie Carr. So the chapter I'll show you here. She is a paddle boarder, and this is her story. Sport has the power to drive incredible change, and nobody demonstrates this better than Lizzie Carr. Not only is she breaking records and achieving world firsts, she's also using her platform as a paddleboarder to combat plastic pollution. Lizzie's life started out ordinarily enough. She earned a degree in English literature at college, got a good job, and worked her way up the career ladder. On paper, it all looked great, but this was not the kind of life that Lizzie wanted. She decided to go traveling. Lizzie spent the next 9 months hiking in China, riding horses in Mongolia, and taking the Trans-Siberian Railway through the most isolated parts of Russia. She went to a doctor when she got home because the glands in her neck were swollen, and she was given a diagnosis that she wasn't expecting: cancer. She had an operation to remove the tumour and went through radiotherapy to kill the remaining cancer cells. Doctors didn't know whether she would survive the treatment, and Lizzie promised that if she got a second chance, she would live life on her terms and find something that gave her purpose. A year later, she was given the all clear. She returned to work, falling back into a familiar routine, but she wasn't happy. This wasn't what she'd survived cancer for. She resigned from her job, which was a scary decision, but it was the right thing for her. Lizzie started paddleboarding as part of her recovery from cancer. Being surrounded by nature made her feel relaxed, but she was horrified to see so much litter in the water. When she saw a coot's nest made from as much plastic as twigs, she realized just how much it was hurting wildlife. Lizzie discovered that 80% of the plastic that ends up in the ocean starts inland and is carried down rivers to the sea. She wanted to do something about this, so she paddled the length of England to raise awareness. She covered 400 miles in 22 days and photographed every piece of plastic she saw, tagging its location on an interactive map. She returned to some of the worst affected areas in a trash raft to collect them. So, 3 fun facts about Lizzie is that she's also the first woman to paddleboard across the English Channel, taking 7 hours and 30 minutes. So every 4 miles, though, she stopped to collect water samples to analyse them for microplastics. She's founded a charity, Planet Patrol, that coordinates cleanup events worldwide. So anybody can join up to these and you can collect rubbish in your local areas, and you download the app, you log it on the app, and it collects this really important data so we can see how much rubbish is being thrown into our areas and which areas are being most polluted. And she was also the first woman to paddle all 170 miles of the Hudson River in New York, despite a hurricane making its way up the East Coast at the time. And I have genuinely no idea how she managed that, because whenever I get on a paddleboard, I have a job standing up with no wind, but that is just absolutely amazing.
I love that. And I wonder how many people listening have been on a paddleboard, because I love those achievements. You know, we might have actually been on one ourselves. And like you say, 170 miles, I can't imagine being able to do that, or crossing the English Channel. Incredible.
Absolutely. And what I love about the story, sport, I think sometimes people think sport is competing, pushing yourself really hard, and it can absolutely be about that. But also trying something new, taking part in a different sport, one that you might not have heard of or know much about, is just as important. And you can also use sport like Lizzie is to change the world. So she is doing so many amazing things to help the environment.
That's amazing.
Cool. So our next athlete comes from India. And she's got a super cool story too. So I absolutely loved writing this chapter. This is the story of Arunima Sinha. She is a mountaineer. From a hospital bed to standing on top of the world, Arunima Sinha's story radiates willpower, persistence, and mental toughness. She's chasing her goal around the globe with a mission to climb the highest mountains on each continent. On April 12, 2011, Arunima caught the train to Delhi. She'd applied for a job as head constable with the armed forces and was travelling to the capital city to sort out a mistake on her paperwork. Sitting quietly on the train, she was attacked by robbers who tried to snatch her gold necklace. When she fought back, they threw her off the train. She tried to get up off the ground, but before she could move, another train ran over her leg. She was found by villagers the next morning and eventually taken to hospital. To save her life, doctors amputated her leg. While she was recovering, she decided that she was going to climb Mount Everest. This was the toughest challenge she could think of, and she wanted to prove to everybody around her, as well as herself, that she could do it. People didn't believe in her dream, but this only made Arunima more determined. To begin with, she could hardly walk, but she trained under Bachendri Pal, who's the first Indian woman to successfully scale Mount Everest, and worked her way up to bigger and bigger mountains. On May 21st, 2013, she reached the summit of Mount Everest. It took her 52 days to make the grueling climb, pushing on even when her Sherpa suggested she turned back. She was running low on oxygen and might not have enough for the return journey. Everest was her dream, and she was going to achieve it, so she kept going, making it to the top and safely back down again. In doing so, she became the first female amputee to climb Everest. Aranima has gone on to conquer the highest peak in 6 of the 7 continents so far. This includes Kilimanjaro in Africa, Elbrus in Europe. I am going to really butcher this pronunciation, but because I don't even know this one. It's in Australia, Cusco, I think, Aconcagua in South America, and Vinson in Antarctica. So she's managed 6 of the 7 in the world. And 3 fun facts about her. Before the attack on the train, she was a very good volleyball player competing at national level. She now runs a non-profit sports academy for disabled children, giving them opportunities to help them realise their potential. And she is the first female amputee in the world to climb Mount Vinson, which is the highest peak in Antarctica.
Wow. What
Awesome.
an amazing story.
I know, yeah, I love that story. Just setting yourself a big goal and pushing yourself as far as you can go.
And
But
for her,
again, like, oh,
for her to
sorry.
for her to have set that from, you know, from the very beginning is amazing, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, super inspiring. And again, showing that sport isn't just about what you do in PE, climbing mountains and things like that. It's just adventure is a really popular sport and growing very quickly. And our last chapter, I thought I'd throw in a bit different. We've had 2 individual sports, so now we're going to move on to a team sport. And this is basketball. So this is the story of Tamika Catchings. So Tamika Catchings spent many years trying to fit in, but ended up standing out as one of the greatest female basketball players of all time. Tamika was born into a basketball family. Her father played in the National Basketball Association, the NBA, and as a result, they moved around a lot. When they settled in Texas, Tamika didn't fit in, and the kids at her school let her know it. They singled her out and bullied her every day. Tamika had been born with moderate to severe hearing loss, and she had to wear chunky hearing aids. She hated feeling different to everyone else, and after a particularly brutal day at school, threw her hearing aids out. Her parents couldn't afford to replace them, so Tamika had to learn how to adapt. She worked harder to compensate, becoming good at reading lips and picking up tiny nuances in body language. Tamika inherited her family's passion for basketball and practiced at every opportunity. On the court, she found that her hearing loss helped her. She might not hear her teammates, but being able to read subtle shifts in body language was invaluable. She could anticipate her opponent's move and see where she was needed. The basketball court was where she excelled and felt safe and accepted. One day I'll be in the NBA. That was her goal. She wrote it down and pinned it to the bathroom mirror. Her parents didn't tell her that this was an impossible dream. They didn't tell her that no girl had ever played in the NBA before. Instead, they supported her. Tamika worked hard. She was on the court before anybody else and stayed after everyone had gone home. As women's basketball grew in popularity, the WNBA league was formed. so the Women's National Basketball Association. Tamika was signed by Indiana Fever, who she stayed with for her entire career. After a disappointing first year spent recovering from injury, she was soon back to fighting form and enjoyed a spectacular career. They advanced to the playoffs 13 times and won the WNBA title in 2012. Tamika was also called up to represent Team USA. Her first Olympic Games was Athens 2004, where she won the gold medal. This set a trend for the next 3 games, which she followed up with golds in Beijing 2008, London 2012, and Rio 2016. She is one of the few basketballers in the world to win 4 Olympic gold medals.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know, super impressive, super impressive. We've got 3 fun facts about Tamika as well. So she went to university, she studied sports management and represented her college team. Her coaches at university encouraged her to wear hearing aids again to help her become an even better player. She's the first player to get a quintuple double, so basketball speak, which means it's where a player reaches double figures across 5 different categories. So points, block shots, assists, steals, and rebounds. And in 2004, Tamika set up the Catch the Stars Foundation. It helps young people achieve their potential because without support, it's difficult to shine. So that's the 3 chapters. And what I love about these role models is that they've all achieved spectacular things in different sports, different fields. But what I found really, really interesting, particularly with the women athletes, the female athletes, is so many of them, once they finish their sport, want to put something back. All 3 of those have gone up to set charities and are really, really doing amazing things at trying to make the world a better place, as well as just being totally awesome at what they do.
Incredible. And I'm hoping we're going to be getting some questions into the chat, but I've got some I would love to ask you, Danielle. And I do just want to say sorry for any pings coming through. I'm going to learn how to turn those off at some point, technology-wise. I'd love to ask you, Danielle, how did you decide on the title for the book? So we know it's called Run Like a Girl, and also that all the different stories are called, different aspects. We've got Inspire Like a Girl and Stand Out Like a Girl. So Fight Like a Girl, I love them, so many. Referee Like a Girl. So how easy was it to decide on the title and that kind of theme?
Oh, yes. So when I'm writing books, I have to say I'm normally rubbish at titles. I really, really don't like that bit so much. It's not the fun part of writing for me. But I found it quite easy to name this book. And the reason I chose it was because running like a girl, catching like a girl, throwing like a girl was always an insult. If you ran like a girl, it meant that you're doing a really rubbish job. It was inferior. But the thing is, there are so many amazing athletes out there, and they're proving that going out onto the field, they're excelling, they're succeeding, they're smashing records, breaking through so many barriers, and they're doing it really, really well as a girl. And I think it comes back to that point that you made, Kat, right at the very beginning about not or wanting to fit in and actually learning that that's not the right way. It's about being yourself and doing something as yourself. So we are just seeing the most incredible people succeeding, thriving, paddling, playing basketball like girls. They're doing a really, really great job, and it shouldn't be an insult. It should be something that we're very, very proud of.
And yeah, so I suppose that's what I love about all the title names, is that it's kind of saying, yeah, I catch like a girl, and I'm brave like a girl, and I climb mountains like a girl. And like you're saying, that element of just feeling that it's not necessarily about fitting in, it's about belonging, and belonging in our own way, and saying I can belong and by being different, but about finding my own way to belong. And that could be through sport, in so many different sports, or it could be through so many different activities, and we can all find our way to belong. And I think that's what I love about, really encourage you all to read this book if you haven't read the rest of the chapters, because they've just found such amazing different ways to belong, which is brilliant. And like you say, to have made a difference as well to other people as they've found their own journey, it's also shone out to those around them to bring other people with them, as I like to put it. And I think some questions hopefully will come into the chat, but I would love to ask as well, was it hard to decide who to include in all of these chapters? Because there must have been more that maybe you wanted to include. Was that difficult, finding the stories and deciding?
Yeah, I mean, 50 athletes are obviously more than 50 amazing athletes around the world, but I just included 50 in the book. So what I wanted to do was create an amazing spread of athletes in lots of different sports, because another thing that's really important to me, like I said, I like talking about two things. We've done a lot of talking about inclusion, but the sport aspect, I love talking to young people and saying, what's your favorite sport? Like we did at the beginning, what sport do you enjoy doing? And we get loads of amazing answers. People sort of say, oh, I love football, or I love swimming, like we had this morning. Some people turn around and go, I don't like sports. Sport's not for me. And I don't believe that's true at all, because there are over 8,000 sports out there. There is absolutely a sport for everybody. If you don't like sport, it's because you've not tried the right one yet. So, yeah, exactly. So I wanted to showcase loads of different sports, and this book has everything from ballet to jousting through to Olympic sports like running, to sort of some of the real long distance, Ironman. So it's got so many different sports in there, just to sort of give people a taste and show what's out there. So that was really important. The other thing, and one of the things that I really benefited from as an athlete, was I got to travel around the world. It was really, really cool as a job. I got to go to different countries, get on a plane, and represent Great Britain in these amazing countries. And I think you learn so much from traveling, meeting different people from different cultures. It's just really, really incredible. So I wanted to bring that into the book and showcase some of the challenges and some of the amazing people around the world. But mostly I was just looking for really inspiring athletes that were going out there, they were doing good, and just sort of showing amazing talent and resilience and all the amazing qualities that athletes develop.
That's brilliant. And we have some questions here. We have one from St John's Academy in Sandbach. They'd like to ask, how long did it take you to write the book?
It took me 3 months, which for me is quite quick. When I speak to a lot of other authors, it always amazes me how quickly some people can write books. And I do sometimes fall into the trap of comparing myself and thinking, oh my goodness, I'm really not doing as well as this person. They're doing so great. They're speeding through all these books and writing them really quickly. But I did this in 3 months, and that was because I was just so inspired about it. You know, I love the research. I love reading about these amazing athletes and telling their stories in a really fun way. So start to finish, 3 months to write, but publishing's really, really interesting. You spend zoom through it in 3 months, and then it takes about another 2 years before it comes out. So yeah, it's a very long process.
And if anyone hasn't seen it, I hope you have in your school, but Is that partly because of the beautiful like illustrations and colours and the way it's laid out? So that must have taken a bit of time to get that lovely design and the cover and everything.
Yes, yeah, I think that's some of it, but I think it's just, yeah, it's quite interesting, sort of making books. I didn't realize all the work that goes into it behind the scenes, and all the planning, and then they've got to get it shipped as well. So yeah, it's really interesting.
Amazing. Well, Jack in Springfield School thinks it sounds really interesting and would love to read it. So that's amazing. And hopefully lots of you feel the same as Jack. And I'm not sure what school, but there's another question asking, what other sports have you tried? I think I know you mentioned as part of your story that you tried quite a lot as a child. So yeah, what other sports have you tried or still try or would
Yeah.
like to try still, maybe even?
Yes, yes. So I loved sport growing up, and first of all, I tried all the ones that were open to me through school. So I tried all the ones in PE, and I did lots and lots of the after school ones as well. And to some success, I enjoyed things like table tennis, football. I loved doing at primary school, but secondary school I turned up and I was the only girl there. So, and that was really, really tough. So I didn't keep up with that for very long, because talking about that place where you fit in and belong, unfortunately, I didn't feel I belonged there very well. But I still gave it a go. I tried it out and decided that it wasn't for me. I did golf for a little while. That was for quite a few years. So I did that with my dad and my family, which was fun. I tried canoeing, so kayaking, and again that was amazing fun. But I wasn't very good at it. I kept falling out of the canoe.
Getting wet.
So exactly, but again, and a lot of the sports that I have tried, by the way, I wasn't good at all. So didn't really show much talent or ability, but I had a great fun doing it, and I got to meet loads of different people. I got to, like, sometimes they were inside, sometimes they were outside, but I got to run around, or later in life when I became disabled and tried different activities, more accessible activities, I'm still out there being able to be fit and healthy, which is really, really important. So yeah, now I do a bit of paddleboarding, a bit of swimming, and yeah, I have tried jousting as well. That was fun.
Brilliant. And I love what you've kind of touched upon there as well, that you actually write on the back of the book. These empowering stories are a reminder that failing can teach you just as much as winning. Could you say a little bit more about that?
Yes, yeah, I think that when people talk about success, they think that it's really, really easy. So you jump from one success to another, and it never works that way. There are always setbacks along the way, there are always challenges, there are always things that pop up that you're not expecting. And what I notice, it's great when you're writing about 50 athletes and putting them all together, because you can map them all out and you can find the patterns that come out. And what was really, really interesting was that with the athletes in the book, they all went on to achieve something amazing in their sport. They've all done something brilliant, but not all of them were fantastic at sport when they were younger. Like, that they weren't the most talented. There were people out there that were better than them. But what made them so great was that they didn't give up. They consistently showed up when it was wet, when everybody else would have given up. I mean, the example we used earlier of Ellen MacArthur, so many people in her boat would have given up when they didn't have the funds, but she had that belief, she had that dream, and she just kept pushing. So yeah, failure is a really, really important learning step on that way to success. It's one that all of these athletes have faced. And I think that it's really important to talk about that bit rather than just focus on their success. Actually talk about the failures, the steps that actually help them get there. because that's the bit that I think we can all learn from. And if we're having a tough day or something goes wrong or we're really, really struggling, we can go, hey, this person managed it. They were in this situation. And wow, look at them. They still managed to go on and achieve really cool things.
And I think it was Michael Jordan, another sports person, wasn't it, and basketballer, that said, I've failed and failed and failed and failed and failed, and that's why I eventually succeeded. So yeah, I love that message. I don't think we've quite asked this. You might have answered this briefly, but I'm wondering, was there a kind of a light bulb moment when you realised I'm going to become an author, or was that a gradual thing to go from sports person to author? How did that happen?
Actually, being an author is my first ever dream. So my first ever goal, I think I was about 4 years old. I used to make up stories and I always wanted to write books. And I've always written books. So I think I wrote my first novel when I was about 14 or 15. And I have to say it was absolutely rubbish. But I did it start to finish. And it taught me something. And the next time I did it, I got a bit better and I got a bit better. So I've not trained to become an author. I've not gone to an author school or done a course in it. I've just sort of learned by trying, failing, and eventually having that dream at 4 years old to getting to the age of 30 before I finally achieved it.
I love that, like parallel kind of passion there of sport and authorship. It's almost like you knew that they would combine at some point, and they did. That's amazing to sort of think there's a story about you here and about everybody else that you were longing to tell. So I love that. And how many books have you written, Danielle?
So I've written 5 now. So one is coming out later this year, which is super exciting. But yeah, I've written Run Like a Girl. I've got Girls Rule, which features 50 female leaders. I also wrote Be Your Best Self, and that was really interesting. I wrote that with an 8-year-old boy. So my co-author is called Nathan. He wanted a book to help him become the best he could be, and he couldn't find one. So we asked if we could write one together, and that's the inspiration for that book. And it was really amazing writing it with him. And I also wrote the book 100 Reasons to Hope for Captain Sir Tom Moore.
Oh gosh, that's incredible. And have you mentioned the one that's coming out next?
Oh, no, yes. No, I forgot that one. So yeah.
No,
The one coming out later this year is called Shoot for the Stars.
Oh.
And that is a girl's guide to becoming more confident at sport. So what we notice in sport is when it comes to girls and boys, girls tend to drop out of sport much more quickly than boys, which is really sad. So it's got to the point where there are millions more boys playing sport than there are girls. And there are some pretty key barriers, some big reasons for this. So the book covers 10 different barriers, 10 different reasons as to why girls are dropping out of sport, but doing it in a really fun way to help them build confidence so they go out and try it and give it a go.
What a brilliant, that sounds amazing. What a brilliant cause. And I think Lexi's asked if anyone has any favourite stories or characters they'd like to share, but I'd love to ask, bearing in mind, you always love books and stories, looking back, was there a favourite book or a favourite character along the way that really inspired you?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. I love reading and I still do. And I do think that reading is probably one of the most important parts of writing. So learning what other people are doing, seeing what other people are doing, you just pick up so much from picking up a good book. And I think so many different books have inspired me. So I don't really have a favorite book, but I think different ones throughout that just think are amazing. But particularly when I was getting involved with sport and sort of that early teenage years, I really liked the Song of the Lioness Quartet by Tamora Pierce. And I think that was the first time really I'd come across books with really strong female characters. And I think growing up not seeing many strong female characters around, it was just really refreshing. And I'm like, wow, this is really interesting and cool and exciting.
That sounds brilliant. And now you've got your own exciting books coming out. So any final questions, do feel free to put them in the chat. Otherwise, we will wrap up very shortly. We're coming close to the end of our hour. What an incredible time we've had with you, Danielle. Those 3 stories and all of those amazing answers to these questions. Is there anything else you'd like to share that we haven't asked you yet before I ask you a final question? Is there anything you feel any message you want to give, I suppose, that you've not mentioned?
Oh, that's yeah, I think really that if writing this book and also my journey, so getting involved with sport, winning medals and having an amazing time doing that, then going on to write books and win awards there as well, it's just been amazing. But that has all been about following my dream and finding something that I'm super passionate about. And again, if you go into the book, if you read Run Like a Girl, that passion is so clear. Every single athlete was just so passionate about what they did. They found their sport, they were excited about turning up, and they believed in that dream so much that they just kept pushing. So I think it's really important. It doesn't matter what age you are, thinking about the things that you're passionate about, what you enjoy doing, what you want to do, maybe even what you want to be, is really, really important to just explore that. And it is okay to change your mind as well. But just finding something that you're like, yes, I'm super excited about this. I'm super passionate about it. It's just really important.
Love that. And I love what you've said as well, that if you haven't found your sport, you've not found it yet, that you found archery at 15, I think you said, and some of these stories in the book found that real passion and drive like later on in a way that they could never have expected. So and also, like you say, we might change over the years and say, oh, actually, gosh, I didn't even know this existed, and now I fall in love with it, no matter what age we might be. So I love that. Our final question then is just to say, what would you say to anyone who just felt they didn't have the confidence to follow that dream? Is there anything you would say about that? Any advice you would give if someone felt, I'm not sure I can really follow that dream, I don't have the confidence? What might you say? Hard
Yeah,
question.
I think it is tricky because I think confidence is really interesting. And I always like to share that I've not been super confident my whole life. Particularly when I became disabled, I lost a lot of confidence and I didn't believe in myself or my abilities. But it was actually sport that gave me that confidence back. And it gave, not just because I was good at it, I actually learned how to become confident. So it wasn't just about winning medals and wow, automatically I was amazingly confident. Turning up to training, having amazing coaches or amazing friends, a brilliant support network who were telling me all the right things at all the right times was really, really important. So actually having that team behind you is really, really helpful. So if you are a little bit nervous, a little bit unconfident about trying something new, I would say take a friend with you, take somebody there that can show up with you, be there and try it out with you. And I think it's just about taking those tiny steps. And what you tend to find is that when you do get out there, when you get out your comfort zone, most of the time you find that actually I don't know what I was worrying about in the first place. But you've got to take that first step. So I would just say that be brave, really, really important to do that. And let the people around you help you too.
And be so proud of yourself as well, like you say, for taking that step, because the hardest bit is almost thinking about doing the new thing. And when you're there, you realize, I'm so proud of myself. I'm here, I'm doing it. And yeah, it doesn't matter what happens. I'm having a good time, and I'm proud of myself for taking that step. So yeah, we all win or we learn, as I always say. So brilliant answer. Thank you, Danielle. We're going to close there. I think we've answered all the questions in the chat. It's been amazing that so many of you have joined us, and I hope those watching the recording have loved it too. So now is just the time to say, do get your copy and read the book if you haven't yet. Find out all about Danielle's other books. We're all excited about the one coming out later in this year as well. And we just want to say a great big thank you to you, Danielle. And we will see anyone that can join us on the next call. We will see you then. Have a great day, everyone.
Amazing. Bye.
Bye-bye.